I've never been someone that follows the crowd. I've always been different, and it's not different because like, oh, I don't like people, or no, like I want to go about my career on and off the field in the most authentic way possible.
All right, this is the Token CEO podcast. It's Thursday, April 28th. This is episode 213. I'm Erika Nardini. I'm the CEO of Barstool Sports. If you haven't already subscribed to our podcast or our show on YouTube, you can go to Token CEO. You can subscribe to us. You get a lot of great stuff there. We also have the Work Like a Girl podcast, which we drop on Tuesdays. So anything and everything related to Barstool Sports, work, my life, Work Like a Girl, you can find all of it on our YouTube channel. We are going to talk about my ramblings from the internet, which there are a lot today. So we're going to start with that. Before we do that, let's just talk about CoinBase. So I love CoinBase. I've been using CoinBase, I want to say for 3 years now. What's awesome about Coinbase is if you want to get into crypto, you want to own it, you want to store it and have it, you want to trade it and sell it, you can buy all sorts of currencies. It's safe, it's trusted, it's reliable. They have an incredible platform. You can get Solana, you can have all different types of currencies in there. So Coinbase is a platform that makes it very easy, very safe, and very reliable for you to do so. If you go to coinbase.com/Erika, you can get $10 in free Bitcoin. So that's coinbase.com/Erika, and you can get $10 in free Bitcoin just for signing up. That's a limited time offer just for you, coinbase.com/Erika. Let's start with the rambling. So what I decided to get into this weekend was CNN Plus. So for anyone who pays attention to media, CNN Plus shut down last week. CNN Plus, $300 million invested, live for less than 4 weeks. So it was live for 3 weeks. That's $100 million a week for its lifespan. They have, on average, the sources say 4,000 daily active users, so that's not a great number. They were reported to have 100,000 subscribers when they shut down. Jason Kilar, who is formerly the CEO of Warner Media, said that 200 million subs were a quote-unquote layup. That didn't actually pan out, but it's really interesting to see what's happening with Warner Media, AT&T, Discovery, CNN, obviously, huge amount of exec shakeups over at ESPN. Jeff Zucker is out. Their CMO is out. Jason, the head of Warner, is out. A lot of the top Warner execs are out. So there's this whole shakeup happening between Warner Media, Discovery, which obviously affects brands like HBO and companies like CNN. So what happened is that Chris Licht just came in as the CEO of CNN. Chris Licht used to run be the executive producer of the Stephen Colbert Show, takes this big corporate job. I guess he was supposed to start on May 2nd, but the big execs at Discovery were like, we would really love it if you could start 3 weeks earlier, and your first order of business will be shutting down the single biggest thing that CNN has been working on in the past year. So the poor guy, I have a ton of empathy for him. His first company meeting, which I guess he swore all over, which I appreciate, was shutting down the biggest bet the company has made in, let's say, the last 5 years. So huge amount of turmoil at CNN. Chris Cuomo is suing the network. You've got the Jeff Zucker drama playing out on Page 6. You've got Discovery coming in and bringing all of their top brass to bear. And I think it's just an interesting moment of corporate mergers and intrigue, exec scandal, and then really a massive question about what is the future of one of, the most, formerly the most trusted, and certainly one of the biggest brands in news. I think you have to acknowledge, though, how hard it is to build a new platform. And in particular, how hard it is to build a new platform and a new brand, period, in an age with so much fragmentation and so much competition. Everyone has a streaming service. So it's hard to get people to subscribe to you. The second thing, and we saw this during the pandemic with ESPN, is that when you're a big established traditional media brand, it is so hard to change. It's hard to change because everybody knows your brand. They know what you stand for. They know what your product is. The other thing is you have a lot of people that work at those companies who also know those same things and are used to doing the things that it takes to make those things happen. They're not used to thinking differently or doing things that are alternative or taking great risk. And then to make this thing almost impossible is that CNN had to build a streaming service without its main product. So when you think about CNN, you probably think about CNN.com, or you think about CNN cable news. And because of CNN's relationships with the cable operators, they couldn't have live news. So they launched a streaming service that they were asking people to pay for, that they hired 400 people to work on, that they put $300 million into. It wasn't your traditional content that you think of from CNN. And so the question from a user's perspective or a consumer perspective is like, why do I have to buy this? If you're going to spend $5.99 on that versus $5.99 on Hulu versus X amount of money on Hulu or Discovery or Apple or Peacock or, on and on and on and on and on, it becomes a really tough bet. So I completely disagree that it was a layup. So that's kind of the background of CNN Plus. What I think is interesting and admirable that CNN is doing is that every staffer on CNN Plus will get 90 days to find a new job at CNN. And then if they don't find a new job at CNN, they will get 6 months severance, which is pretty awesome. So it's 9 months severance. So credit to CNN for that. The other piece that Zaslav has been really vocal about is that he wants to collapse all of the subscriptions into one, that there is one massive streaming network. The little micro one-off streaming solutions aren't going to work because there's not enough content and the price is too high. So that's kind of the CNN Plus overview. Then I got into Netflix. So let's talk about Netflix. So Netflix lost 200 subs in Q1. So Netflix has around 200 or 220 million subscribers worldwide. In Q1 of this year, they were supposed to add 2.5 million subscribers. They didn't. They lost 200,000. So not only did they not get to 2.5, they actually did worse than that, which is they didn't hit 2.5, and then they lost 200,000 on top of that. What's worse is that Netflix is indicating that they will lose another 2 million subs in Q2. So their earnings aren't until July, but in Q2, they're signaling that they're going to lose another 2 million subs. So I was like, why is Netflix losing all these subscribers? I think it's kind of interesting. I love Netflix. There's so much to watch on Netflix. Like Netflix, the documentary collection alone on Netflix is worth it. But why is Netflix losing subs? And then what you realize is the impact of a global business, right? Netflix stopped doing business in Russia. That cost them, I think, 600,000 or 700,000 subscribers. Netflix raised price. We talked about this like 2 or 3 weeks ago in the headline section. 600,000 consumers in the U.S. were like, no, I don't want to pay more for Netflix because now I have Peacock or I have Hulu or I have Apple Plus or I have Disney, whatever. The other thing is that Netflix has, I think, around the world, 100,000 people using Netflix for free. And so imagine that, which is you could be a third again your size. You could be a third again the amount of money that you're making if people weren't sharing accounts on your product. So what's Netflix going to do about it? It's super interesting. Something Reed Hastings, in my opinion, was allergic to for the history of his time is having an ad-supported product. So Netflix is now saying they will support an ad-supported model. That's super interesting. Second, they have got to figure out a way to have people stop sharing accounts. I think the question, though, is if you have to pay for Netflix, are you still going to use it? Or problem number 3, they've got to find a way to keep content coming into Netflix. So the other thing that was interesting in a lot of what I read about Netflix was that someone was criticizing Netflix for having unchecked growth. Like the phrase was unchecked growth. And it really got me thinking about unchecked growth, right? Like growth is good. Everybody likes growth. You like growth on a personal level. You like growth from a relationship perspective. You like growth at work and your job. You want your company to grow. And kind of this notion that is unchecked growth bad? And I think unchecked growth is incredibly exciting. It means you're moving fast. It means you can't quite keep up with everything. It means the demand is maybe outpacing the supply, or you're being pressured or pushed to try and do new things. Like, that's a really amazing thing. We should all be looking for that at some point in our life, like that there's breathtaking growth that you can't keep up with. So then I started reading about Tinx. So I don't know if anybody who listens to this follows It's Me Tinx. So it's a woman. Her name is Christina Najjar. She was born in London and then I think moved to California, went to Stanford, and she exploded during the pandemic. She became, she's self-declared herself to be the big sister of TikTok, and she kind of preaches body positivity. She's very funny. She's got this whole slogan around Rich Mom's Starter Pack, right? Like, so she's got this whole like Rich Mom's starter kit. She kind of mocks / kind of covers what it takes to be a rich mom in Beverly Hills or West Hampton or New York City or Berkeley or wherever that may be. She has a massive loyal following. She's cultivated the following by being very real, very approachable. She talks a lot about her fans. Speaking of unchecked growth, It's Me Tinx. We hit the pandemic. She times TikTok exactly right. She explodes, grows a massive audience, loves and nurtures that audience. And then as happens to us every single day, her detractors go back and kind of comb through all of her tweets, all of her posts. And as it turns out, she called Kim Kardashian fat. She called people at Coachella fat. And then the other thing that was very funny about it is that she was retweeting a lot of conservative people like Clay Travis, which was funny, and that started to have some xenophobic tweets about COVID, some slurs about China and where the virus came from. And what's interesting is she's kind of cultivated this like body positive, liberal, very happy image. When you go back into her Twitter, you see like, I don't think it was like of all the shit people have said on Twitter over the last, since the beginning of Twitter, I would not put her at the top of the list. But it's interesting to see the kind of gotcha culture that we have, which usually starts with Reddit. There was a lot of Substack articles written on it. But what was also interesting is that it took her a really long time to post an apology. What I love, though, that she has to say is, if you've been following me, even for a little bit, you know that these aren't representative of who I am. I'm sorry, and I'm a work in progress. Like, I think the work in progress and unchecked growth things are really important. Hopefully, everyone in their life has a time where you have unchecked growth. Also, recognizing that you're not perfect, that you should be cringing at yourself a year ago, and that you are acknowledging and being humble to being a work in progress is an awesome thing. So I thought that was interesting. And then so Sophia Amoroso was like my last pivot on this. She wrote this book called GirlBoss. She was the CEO of Nasty Gal, which was a fashion company that basically she like coined GirlBoss, wrote a book, launched the book, and then the company went into bankruptcy. But the other thing that's really interesting about her in the work in progress theme is that she's beautiful. Like, she has these gorgeous posts on Instagram, but she's also very open to what a mess she is, and also where and how she's failed. And I think that's really important, because one of the things I was reading about, the whole girl boss theme, I hate girl boss. I think it's like, just be a fucking boss. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't caveat it by being a girl. And one of the things that she acknowledges is how weird it was to coin girl boss and what girl boss became. Like, conventional wisdom is like, oh, girl boss is the future of lean in. So first there was Lean In, which was Sheryl Sandberg's book. Then there was Sophia's book, which was called Girl Boss, which was all about getting to the top in a uniquely feminine way. And then, my feeling now is like, let's just get to the top. Like, get to the top in your own way. Be you. You can be yourself and be successful. And she seems to really embody that too. And the other piece I really like about her is that she owns her mistakes. She acknowledges she's a work in progress. And she also is very open about, she's kind of bewildered about her life. She's like, I'm living in Los Angeles. I have this partner. He wants kids. I'm not sure. I don't know where I'm going. I do know where I've been. And I think that's such a great thing for women to see, which is you don't have it all figured out and you aren't perfect and you have made mistakes. And most importantly, you've learned from them. So in our theme of unchecked growth, I think she's someone who's clearly growing, but in a really checked way. And maybe Tinx is too, you know what I mean? Like maybe she's also, you know, being called out, having the gotcha moment is very humbling, and that they're both out there continuing to push, continuing to post, continuing to be on their journeys is awesome. While we're talking about unchecked growth, if you want to achieve your potential and get as much unchecked growth as humanly possible, I bet you do, you should try Celsius. So Celsius is an energy drink. I love the sparkling orange. It has essential energy. It accelerates your metabolism. Everybody knows I want that. And it burns body fat. I mean, what's better than a drink that burns body fat? They've got a ton of flavors. They've got a whole bunch of vitamins in every single can. You can drink them warm. You can drink them cold. They've got what seems like a million flavors. They've got watermelon. They've got guava. They've got blueberry. I like the sparkling orange the best. They've got Celsius Heat, which combines caffeine. So if you really need a pick-me-up, you can get your vitamins, burn your fat, improve your metabolism, have an energy drink, and get caffeine while you're at it. If you go to Celsius.com, you can find a store near you, or you can get it at Amazon, Walmart, or Target. Celsius Live Fit. So we're adding a quick thing to the pod because Elon Musk bought Twitter this week for $44 billion. I think when Musk first put the bid out, we talked about this in last week's show, everybody thought it was kind of a joke. Everyone is so fixated on him and his persona and the billionaireness of it all. And what would he do? Is he going to turn Trump back on? What is this going to do to Trump's media company? The conservatives are all saying this. The liberal or the left people are all saying that. I think it's so exciting just purely from a business perspective. So one is credit to Musk. He kind of reminds me of Dave and Barstool, where he'll like fucking say something and then is like, oh, I'm going to go get that done. So clearly made the bid. I think he's putting in 21 billion of his own money, and then he got the balance of it from a bunch of banks. There's a whole bunch of people out there who would love to see Twitter become more than it is. There's so much potential for Twitter, and there's so much potential for social media. So for example, 90% of Twitter's business is advertising. Twitter has not kept pace with Facebook, with Instagram, which is obviously owned by Meta or Facebook, with Snapchat, with TikTok, with others. They haven't innovated an ad product. They're not a must buy the way some of the other platforms are. They don't convert in the same way. They don't have the same cachet. Now that they're going to be a private company, the pressure on how they make money changes, right? It evaporates. So it doesn't evaporate. Like Musk will obviously want a return for it. He's going to want a multiple on the 44, but it changes the dynamics of the company. I think what's so exciting about it, and even more so than what the business model looks like, is what Musk will do with the algorithm. So will he make it transparent? Will he make it crowdsourced? What kind of pressure does this put on Facebook and Google and Amazon and everyone else who has a non-transparent algorithm? I think the other piece that's interesting is my gut is like he and Dorsey are locked at the hip on this. Like Jack Dorsey's actually excited for Musk to come in because Musk will make it possible for Dorsey to achieve a lot of things that he's wanted to do, but the Twitter staff and the Twitter ecosystem and just the pressures, or maybe the shareholders of Twitter are like, no, keep making more ad money. But one of the things I'm hearing is that they're going to basically make, if you work for Apple, you have a private Twitter feed that's just for Apple employees, like making Twitter long form versus just short form, making Twitter something that you subscribe to per se versus having it be ad supported, maybe making it a better ad supported platform. I think regardless is you're looking at a person who is a serial entrepreneur. You're looking at a person who understands tech extremely deeply and on a very, very sophisticated basis. You're looking at someone who loves this platform, uses it, loves it, champions it, thinks about it emotionally and intellectually. And I think it's such a good thing. I think it's such a great thing to have a shakeup like this and for Twitter to, as Musk would say, achieve its potential. Like, I think a lot of people criticize Twitter for being this cacophony of negativity and noise and fighting and polarization. But in reality, Twitter is one of, if not the only, real-time platform where people can have a dialogue or people can espouse their points of view. Why wouldn't we celebrate that? Why wouldn't that become even bigger than it is today? Why this is, it's everybody in the world is looking for more discourse and dialogue as a way to resolve problems. Why can't Twitter be an incredible forum to do that? So I think for all those reasons, it's super exciting. The other thing I think about the algorithm is that when you look at what Facebook's doing with its algorithm or TikTok's doing with its algorithm or Instagram, et cetera, they're using the algorithm to fight one another, right? Like, I don't think most people realize this. We see this every day. What a company's business strategy is manifests in what their algorithm is and how their algorithm gets used. So, for example, we are grappling with this all the time. The more Facebook and Instagram are threatened by TikTok, the more their algorithm favors. The rules of the algorithm are manipulated to make the platform surface, promote, feature, highlight, favor content that helps them compete with TikTok. And the idea of having, Musk talks about bias, right? Bias in the algorithm. Like, definitely there's a whole thing about gender bias, racial bias. There's a whole bunch of things about bias in the algorithm, but there's also the manipulation of the algorithm itself. And the biggest thing that I think is important is, Twitter's not really considered big tech. Like, in the beginning, Twitter was a big fucking deal. Now Twitter's like the little sister or the little brother of the big guys, right? You don't talk about, it's not a fanged companies, it's FANG companies, and then Twitter's hanging around there, Snapchat's hanging around there, TikTok's is too new. But if you think about one of the original social media networks becoming more transparent, what kind of pressure does this put on the rest of the industry to also become more transparent? So I think all those things are tremendously exciting. I think if I were, it's so funny, we talked to a bunch of Twitter people this week, and they all had like CNBC on in the background as they're trying to have a meeting, and they're like, wait, I'm trying to find out what my future looks like and what's happening with our company. But all in all, like, change is such a good thing, and radical change, and I can imagine the first meeting that Musk has with that team. Like, that's going to be so exciting. Long story short, I cannot wait to watch. All right, let's do Q&A. How do you navigate when your team is going through a lot of changes in leadership? Companies go through change, people go through change. Change can happen for really good reasons. Change can happen for very bad reasons. Change can kind of blindside you and you don't see it coming, can put you on your heels, can make you feel uncomfortable. Obviously, change brings a lot of anxiety, and that's supernatural. When companies go through a lot of change, my feedback would be to stay the course in your job. If you are part of those changes, you've got to set a vision, you have to communicate it very well, you have to explain the who, what, where, when, why, and how of what you're doing. But if your company, you're a mid-level manager, your company's going through a lot of leadership changes, I think there's a couple things to it. Really work hard to understand what your company is doing and why they're doing it. 2, do not get caught in the fray of bitching about the people that are leaving or complaining about the people that are coming in or just complaining about change. People hate that. It's not a good look. It says that you're scared. It says that you're small. It says that you're self-centered. Like, don't get caught in that. I think the best thing you can do when your leadership is changing is to understand what the company is trying to do, understand why these new people are going to get it to that place, maybe understand how the last leadership regime didn't get that done, and then to make sure you can articulate how that works in your cubicle. Like, what are you doing that's going to help the new people get what they need to done, that helps your company achieve what it's trying to go after, and what is the lesson you can learn from the people who didn't make it? So the biggest thing is, like, take a deep breath. Don't worry about it. The sky isn't falling. Things change all the time. Shit happens. It will be good. It will be bad. It will be terrible. It will be amazing. It will be boring. It will be anticlimactic and extremely exhilarating. It'll be all those things at once. stay your course, make sure you understand and kind of intellectualize like, ooh, this is what's happening here, and then get your job done. All right, last question. The company I work for was bought at the end of last year. The new owners are just now starting to focus on us, the magazine. This person works in a magazine. They are asking our small staff to do a lot when we're already spread thin with a lot on our plates. How do I tell an executive, not my boss, of this new company, I don't have time or bandwidth to do this because I do all of these other things, while also preparing for reviews later this summer and setting myself up to ask for a raise or a better title? Get out of the magazine business is my first thing. Like, you can't, no, like, don't, no. You don't want to be the person who's in the great business of yesterday, right? So the first thing I would say is, if you want a raise, you want more money, you want a better title, you want more recognition, you want more control, you want to do more interesting things, get closer to a growth area of the business. Use what you've learned. Maybe if the magazine were the growth area or the single best thing in the business, you would have the best chance of getting a raise or a title or promo or more stuff to do. But it sounds to me that your management has come in, they've taken care of all the super important stuff, and now they're getting to your area of the business. If your area of the business is not in the super important stuff bucket, you're not going to have as good of a chance of getting a raise or a promotion. The second thing is, when you're being asked to do something, you can't be like, I'm going to ask for more money and a better title, and I'm going to tell them that I'm not going to do that. Like, those two things do not go together. What I would do is I would make sure that you are very clear with your boss on what your priorities are. I would make sure I understand what the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth priorities are for your job on any given day at any given time. The second thing is, if you're being asked by someone else, your boss's boss or new management people, to do other things, what I would then say is, I'd love to take on these new things. I can't wait to take on this new challenge, to do all this new stuff. These are my priorities now. How does this map to what my priorities are? Are these things more important, the same importance, or less important? And force that person to tell you what their priorities are. If there's a disconnect in what the priorities look like, reconcile that with your boss. But I don't think it's a good idea to go to your new management and be like, I have too much stuff to do, knowing in your head you're going to ask that same person for a raise come June or July of this year. So what I would make sure of is that you know what your priorities are, that you're very transparent about your priorities, that your priorities are bought off on by your boss. You may create a little bit of tension because you may be like, that guy says that this is my priority and the new guy says that that's my priority. You got to get to the truth of it, because ultimately you want to grow your career, you want to grow your money, you want to grow your span of control and responsibility, you want to grow your impact. You can only do that if you're working on things that the company prioritizes. And that's the single biggest thing after getting out of the magazine business. We do a lot of commerce here. I love small businesses. I was on TikTok yesterday and I found these two ladies who run a plant store who make the cutest TikToks of all time. I imagine it's quite hard to ship houseplants. Like, I think houseplants through the mail is like the last frontier. I don't really know how that works or how that could work. If you have a small business and you want to ship stuff, and you want to ship the orders that come into your store, you should look at Shipstation. What's amazing about Shipstation is it basically takes the infrastructure that Fortune 500 companies have, but what it does is it makes it easy for your small business to ship out orders easily, cost efficiently, expediently, and you can act like you're a big business and have the right setup to be able to fulfill your business and fill your customers' orders anytime, anywhere, anyhow. What's awesome about Shipstation is they combine the processing, inventory management, creation of shipping labels. They do the customer communication. They've got a super easy interface. I think they work with like over 45 carriers and 300 platforms. So you can take orders from all different places, right? You're selling widgets. You're selling Work Like a Girl hats. You're selling Celsius. You're selling hair clips. Doesn't matter. You use Shipstation, it makes it super easy for you to manage that process and to give your customers a great experience. If you go to shipstation.com, that's shipstation.com, and use code TOKEN, you can get a free 60-day trial. That's shipstation.com, code TOKEN, free 60-day trial. So Carli Lloyd, one of the most lauded American soccer players of all time, men or women. She is a badass. She's a Jersey girl. She's tough. That Carli Lloyd is tough. But she joins us. She talks about her new endeavors. She has some big news to share. She talks about her journey as a female athlete and what she's going to do next. Okay, how did you get into soccer?
So I started soccer at the age of 5. My parents, they weren't soccer players.
Okay, they just like shoved you in like rec league.
Yeah, they just signed me up for a local town team.
Okay.
My mom, claims she was somewhat of an athlete. She did cheerleading.
Okay.
No disrespect to cheerleading, but my dad didn't play and just kind of signed me up, and it was like sort of love at first sight.
And you loved it. And were you like a hyperactive kid?
I was just a very creative, active kid. I wouldn't say hyperactive. Like I was a total tomboy.
Okay.
Loved sports.
All day long.
My mom, they signed me up for piano, dance. I would throw like a temper tantrum.
Okay, just none of that
did not
stick. Okay.
No.
And was it only soccer or any sport?
Soccer was it for me, but I swam, I did basketball, softball. We had such an awesome neighborhood.
Yeah.
Our whole street was loaded with kids, so I would play with
anything,
everybody.
with anyone.
Roller hockey, football.
Did you watch In Search of Greatness? Have you watched this?
Yes.
It's so honestly, you make fun of me, but like it was
Joe Montana, right? Was on there?
Gretzky.
Yes.
Jerry Rice. But the basic premise of it is the more creative you can be by playing different sports and
that's the problem with today's kids.
Totally, very regimented.
People are like the kids are having to be told what to do.
Yeah.
And that's not where you build like your craft.
Yeah. So so you built your craft. You're like, I'm a tomboy. I'll pick up anything. I'll play anyone.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
And if I couldn't do something, like if I couldn't throw a spiral over football, I would just keep doing it. Whereas I think most kids now, if they can't do something, they just like don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't that sad?
Yeah,
and
I would just
like we like killed that in kids.
Yeah, and that's the way you like figure out life and get through adversity. Like if at first you don't succeed, you
try again.
Try again. It's like such a cliche.
So when did you realize that you were very good?
I don't know that I realized it, but everybody in my town realized it. My parents realized it. So I got to a point where I played for Delran AA recreational, soccer. And
Is that a New Jersey thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I moved. It was my town team.
Okay.
Then I moved up to the travel team. And then it got to a point where it was like, okay, I got asked to join a club team in New Jersey that was a very reputable club team. That was going to further my career. College coaches, we would go to tournaments where college coaches would be there. So that's when I left my town, which was kind of unheard of back then.
Okay, that's not what people were doing. I feel like that's all anyone wants their kid to do right now.
Exactly.
There's
so
like a machine for it.
It was a big deal.
Okay.
It was hard.
It was a story. Now, did your family go with you, or did you get shipped off?
It was close. So it was just a couple towns away.
Okay.
Yeah, so this guy formed this club team, the Medford Strikers, and it was comprised of, all players from New Jersey area, Pennsylvania, and even Delaware. Okay. So he put together a really great team. We won 2 state championships with that team, but it definitely gave me, a bigger platform.
And you were addicted.
Yeah,
like the drive. You loved it.
Yeah, I think as kids when you complain about going to practice or you don't want to miss things with your friends, like I didn't care.
Yeah,
I had friends. I had a couple friends, close friends, but I wanted soccer all day, every day.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so then it just keeps growing. It gets bigger. Were you always so defiant about people who said you weren't good enough? Like, talk about that part of your career.
I think, in speaking with my parents, they just said that I always was striving to be good at whatever I was doing. Like, even school, I wasn't the brightest student, but I worked hard. I did my homework. I wanted to get good grades. So there was like some accountability with like always just trying to be good at whatever I was doing.
You took everything seriously.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think for me, it was just the passion. Like, you can't teach passion and will. I know during several of our family, holidays that we had, it was like Christmas time, I think, and one of my cousins was telling me, I looked out the window and you're out there juggling in the snow. We're all inside eating, and you're out there juggling the soccer ball because I just couldn't get enough.
Yep.
And so I just think that will and that passion just grew and grew. And coming from New Jersey, being from the Philly area, like, there was that chip on my shoulder.
Yeah, for sure.
I always wanted to kind of stick it to people.
Yeah, I love that. And what did people say about you? It said that you had a list, that you kept the list. I love that.
Yeah, I did keep a list. I named several of the things in my list in my Players Tribune article that came out when I retired.
Yeah.
Not all of them were on that list, but we picked
a select handful.
We picked the heavy hitters.
Yep.
But no, I mean, I just think, there was always people saying stuff. I think as I got older and on the pro scene, you read articles, you see on social media, you hear about all those things. But I had, a couple coaches cut me in my earlier under 21 national team days. And I just always kind of wanted to.
Yeah, you're like, okay, I'll show you.
And I remember there was an instance at a Jefferson Cup tournament, which is a big tournament. They still do that now. College coaches from, all across the country come, and I was playing okay from what I was told, and I got nailed with a ball.
Okay.
And it that just pissed me off. And so from that point on, apparently I was
on fire,
playing insane. But yeah, there's just stuff that I guess lights underneath me.
That's so great. And then do you coach now? How are you still involved with soccer? You retired in August, right?
I announced in August, finished playing in November of 2021. I run my own CL10 clinics.
Okay.
So they're 2 hours. I do 2 to 3 sometimes in a day.
Okay.
They're wide range of ages 8 to 18 or 20. Taking a couple of those on the road now. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing those.
Yeah.
But they're really fun. It's a way to help inspire the next generation.
And who were you in the locker room, and who are you now as a coach?
What do you mean,
who were you? I was a shit stirrer in the locker room. Now, granted, my locker rooms suck compared to yours, so let's just call that what it is. But who were you?
I was just very even keeled, just chill. I think sort of my demeanor is just, you can never tell if I'm stressed, rattled. I just keep a very even keeled mindset. And I just kind of kept to myself, listened to my music. I mean, I wasn't up and dancing in the locker room or fiddling with the music. So yeah, I was just pretty ready, got focused, and that was it.
So you have a big announcement.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us what it is?
Yeah, so I'm super thrilled. This is kind of a long time in the making, but not really. You know how contractual things work out.
It's the worst.
But yes, I am officially a owner of an NWSL team, Gotham FC.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, so
with a group?
Yes, so I'm alongside of, there's a couple, Tammy Murphy, the governor of New Jersey, and Ed. We have our former teammate of mine is actually the GM.
Okay.
Yael Averbush West. So that's pretty cool that she's part of it. But yeah, there's a lot of women in charge with it, which I think is really cool. And I'm just happy this is something new for me. But I'm really a big believer in what Gotham FC is doing. They're really trying to, they've rebranded, and last year I would say the second half of the season, they're really trying to make things a lot better for the women and the players.
That's great.
So.
Where do they play?
We did play, they currently play at Red Bull Stadium, Red Bull Arena, which is in Harrison, New Jersey.
Yep.
Yes.
And
so
they'll stay there.
All the home games are there. It's a great stadium. So I just want to help continue. I just feel like I have still so much more to give.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that within this new role, I'll probably find maybe more things that I'm passionate about. But yeah, I'm really excited.
How do you think it's going to be being an owner? What will you bring to being an owner, having been a player at really every level? You've had every success pretty much imaginable in the sport.
I think that I think what often kind of gets in the way of running a successful team is that you have owners, you have, the higher ups on the admin side that don't really understand from a player's perspective side of, what it takes, what is needed, what's more important. So I feel like I've been around, I've gone through so many different experiences, and I can kind of help bridge, whether it's like, hey, we need this type of equipment, or, there's just varying things, and then you kind of discuss with the other people involved and figure that out. But I just think that I can bridge so much more and kind of maybe offer some
unique
things outside of the box that maybe they're not really, they're thinking from like a business side, and I'm kind of have my thinking cap on from like a player side
that makes
as well.
Sense. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny because it's when you look at the team ownership, it's what is it? Sponsorship revenue, it's ticket sales, it's the marketing of the team. You really bring the game to that.
Yes.
And the drive.
Right.
And I think that first person perspective from a player is just rare.
Definitely.
You don't see that in I guess you see it in some front offices, but I think it's great to see it from.
And I can continue to, kind of be around the fan base. You know, we want to sell tickets. I mean, literally, like us as players want to get paid more. We got to get people in the seats
that's
too,
right.
because that's generating revenue. Yeah. So it's it's me still staying involved, doing some appearances, kind of helping bring people out to the game. And what I love too is that I'm kind of the first solo player to be an owner of a team. Now, LA Angel City, they have a whole spectrum of former
real
players.
Glitzy owners.
There's a lot of them.
Set of owners.
Yes, there's a lot of them. So I just take pride in kind of going a little bit of a different route.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, for a team that I played for, I think that's really
special.
I
love that too. I think there's something gritty about you. Like there's the New Jersey, like only the strong survive kind of.
Definitely.
LA will be very glitzy. Everyone will look very good in the stands. It's sexy. And then you've got like the New York crew coming in. And I love that. Like,
and it's kind of building, where I feel like, there's still so much more growth that Gotham FC can give. And so I'm kind of happy to be involved to help continue to push it.
All right. So what's the Gotham brand going to be like, the ownership versus the like LA people? Like, are you gearing up for like the like sewer rats versus the Hollywood crew? That'd be a good story.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it'll be interesting to kind of to like get a deep dive in and really kind of be front and center, because obviously, the last time I've kind of spoken to everyone there, I was a player, and now this is a different role. So I think that I'm going to find that I'm going to have opportunities to choose to get involved with certain things, and maybe I'll be more passionate, or I don't even know right now. And I think it's going to be something where I'm just kind of going to be in it and figure out what I like, what I don't, what I'm maybe more passionate about. But I just think it's great for the sport. And hugely. Just such a cool honor to be able to.
It's also awesome. Like, you could make a great business.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that I've seen a lot of things, been around a lot of things, and can definitely offer some input.
There's been a lot made of the equal of pay. Why do you think they get paid more when you're more successful? Doesn't that bother you?
Well, the contracts have just been different.
Yeah.
I think, like, we've agreed and we've signed these contracts, these collective bargaining agreements. Yeah. So we've kind of known, but the problem is the way we have been made to just feel grateful for what we're getting, and to not ask for anything more because we're not going to get it, or we're threatened, or it's like, well, if you're going to go on strike, or if you're going to want more, which we can't give you more, we won't have you play any games.
Yeah, you're out.
Yeah, so it's that for me. And then, there's off the field things like charter flights, per diem, meals, hotel, playing surfaces. They're all equal now.
Okay,
yes.
Got it.
So that was all worked out, which is great, because, I mean, we played a whole World Cup in 2015 on artificial turf, which men would never play on artificial turf. So there's no beef with the men. Like, we want the men to be successful.
I think the more successful soccer can be in America, everybody
Definitely.
wins.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not a good thing if the men, thankfully,
Stink.
they qualified. But it wasn't a good thing for anybody that they didn't qualify.
Yeah. But it was such a great thing that the women were so strong. Like, I love that. I'm like, if what was the like tip of the spear in U.S. soccer is the women, which I think is amazing.
But the men's side is a lot harder.
How? Because it's more competitive?
The men's game has been around for a lot longer than the women's game. The men's World Cups have been around a lot longer. And our culture is many different sports. All of these other countries, they grow up with a ball at their feet.
Yeah.
So that's like the only sport they know. I mean, you don't see, NFL football being played overseas in Europe.
Right. Yeah, there's no competition.
No. So we've been at a disadvantage on the men's side for so long because you're competing against so many other sports here, and it's not the culture.
Yep.
The women's side has been really strong. We've been really successful over the years, but now the whole rest of the world is catching up.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's like, our men are, there's a huge difference, but it's getting a little bit better, and we used to have this huge advantage, and we don't so much anymore.
And the rest of the world is catching up.
Europe is leveling out a bit with us. So, but that's now making the whole women's game, global women's game,
so
that
exciting.
much better.
Yeah, so exciting. What I really like about you as a player is one of the things that drives me nuts about women's athletics is that I think women are kind of, to your point on the conditioning, like you're conditioned to accept your contract because otherwise you're not going to play. But also the way that women are conditioned with the media to be polite and to be perfect and to be silent. And honestly, like you give it to most everyone you talk to, which I like about you. Like, how was that? Like, are you an outlier in that? Do you think more female athletes will be like that? Like, are you a role model for standing up for who you are, how you got there, what you stand for, and what you believe in?
Yeah, I've never been someone that follows the crowd. I've always been different, and it's not different because like, oh, I don't like people, or no, like I want to go about my career on and off the field in the most authentic way possible. That was for me, like, that's just all I wanted from start to finish. I didn't want to waver. I didn't want to get, sucked into being somebody different, being somebody I'm not. And I think I really rubbed people the wrong way with, you could call it a little arrogance, but for me, it's just confidence, confidence in knowing who I am as a person and a player, and not being afraid to tell the world, I want to become the best player in the world.
Yeah, like, why should you apologize for that?
What's wrong with that? That's my goal. Along that, I'm helping the team be successful but from an individual standpoint, that was my goal.
Yeah.
And I achieved that goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to be able to say it, do it, and then achieve it, I'm like, why is that frowned upon?
Yeah, that's right.
Would this be taken differently or lightly if I were a male player?
Probably not.
So that always kind of like irked me over the years is just, I'm not afraid to say what I believe. I speak the truth. I'm not afraid to call out reporters if, you're talking,
one of my favorite things.
You're talking a lot of smack about me.
Yeah, you're like, I see you, local guy. And then he's like,
But it kind of builds.
Yeah.
I don't just, it's like, okay, one thing happens, another thing happens. And then finally I'm like, you know what? You need to be told.
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
You need to be called out on this. So that's just how I've always operated. And I don't think when I came onto the scene in 2005, no U.S. player really had ever been like that.
I think there's still few today.
Yeah, no player really said, this is what I want, and I'm going to chip away every single day and achieve that goal. So I think, yes, even some of my teammates were like, who's this girl from Jersey? Like this arrogant prick, what is she about? But come to find out, now later in my career and when I retired, people have a respect for that. And I guess it just took some people a little while, maybe some people not even.
Yeah.
But
yeah, some people never. That's okay.
Exactly. But you know what? I'm proud to have gone about my career the way that I did.
That's awesome. I think that's the best role. outside of soccer, I think if more women could be so convicted about who they are and be proud of what they've accomplished and call the ball on what they're going to do next. Like, I feel like women sometimes get sheepish on like, well, what if I don't get there? Well, you might not get there,
right?
But get there, you know?
And even from like the drama perspective, because, you know, there's some drama that comes with women, which I get. I always, if there was an issue or if I heard something, I would literally go directly to the person.
Yeah, you're like...
And I would just squash it. Or I would say, hey, what's going on? You know, and I think that kind of breeds a sense of confidence to not be afraid to do that, because I don't think it's healthy for people to be talking behind your back and saying stuff.
Cut the bullshit. Like, do you have an issue with me? What's
Straight
your issue?
to the point. Hey, we're teammates, blah, blah, blah. What can we do? How can we make this better? And,
it's so interesting to me, too, because I think the other thing that's happening, I'm curious to get your opinion on it, is one of the things that I observe, like we're in this era of mental health, right? Like, we're in this era of mental health. I think people are more sensitive now than they were maybe in 2005, or at least for me when I was playing sports in the 90s. I think women, not just women, I think all athletes are more sensitive. The world has also changed. There's so much media, there's social media and whatnot. But I feel what I like about you is you have a little bit of, or maybe a lot of like, fuck you to you, which I find that sometimes people cower in the face of criticism versus resist it. Like, what's your perspective on that?
I totally agree. I think, we're just, it's becoming too soft.
It's
like
soft.
I'm like, the old school generation is like dying. There's like a dying breed. I think the biggest thing as a professional athlete, and really anyone that takes on a very prominent role somewhere, it comes with baggage. Like, it comes with pressure. It comes with, you know, depression, with highs, with lows, with
criticism,
anxiety,
opinion.
criticism. It comes with everything. Like, you're signing up for that. So you have to know that. You're on the world stage. If you miss a PK in a World Cup final like I did in 2011,
Everybody's going to shit on you. Yep.
Own it.
Yeah.
I cried. I sulked. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to learn from this. I'm never going to miss another PK in a world event. 2015 World Cup, I have 2 important PKs to make, and I make them.
Yeah,
and we win a World Cup. So, like, we're all in the driver's seat to change our narrative. You can either sulk about it and complain about the fans and the critics, or you can do what I do, complain about them, call them out, and then prove them wrong and stick it to them.
But also, that you said something important, too, which is own it when you mess up. Like, everybody fucks up. Everyone messes up. Everybody misses their PK, right? And I completely agree with you. Like, the 24 hours of sulking, the crying, like, that that's a good part of the process. But then, like, get to work. And you seem to me to be very clear about the work.
I've just owned every improvement I have needed in my career. Because I was never a perfect player. You know, there was just always evolving, always growing, but I never shied away from things that I wasn't good at. That's actually the only focus I had. I'm like, I'm not good at this. Like, I'm going to work at this until I become better at it. And it's no different than like my weaknesses. I wasn't physically fit. I wasn't mentally tough enough. And my character was, you know, a little shaky at times. And I turned all 3 of those into my strongest suit and strength. And so I just don't think people want to work on things they're not good at.
Yeah.
And I think when athletes, now you have this new generation of, you know, influx of, you know, this generation of players, I think they've been handed so much. And I think that they haven't dealt with adversity from a young age. And then they get to the professional level and they, you know, maybe win something, and then the next one they lose, and then, you know, the fans are coming down hard on them, the critics, and they don't know how to handle it. But my journey was hard from the beginning.
Yeah, it's fun. I think one thing that's happening is, like, success is a terrible teacher, right? The second thing is, I think what's happening now is we're building so many crutches. Mm-hmm. Like, instead of having to deal with adversity in small doses when you're young, we're protecting kids and young adults from that. So then the first time they really meet adversity is at a time when it matters, and they have no skills. They have no skills to beat it. And then there's no, you know, it's funny. I had this conversation with someone here on Friday afternoon, and the person was saying to me, we're having some adversity, right? There's an adverse situation. And what the person said is like, I just need you to be more positive. And I'm like, I am a very positive person, but this is a bad moment. So we should call it what it is, which is a bad moment that we can learn from.
And that's the only way you learn.
That's the only way you grow. So
I know.
I think that's part of it, which is there's this conditioning of perfection, and then there's also the Instagram or the social media of it all, where you only see that final product. So for you would only ever see that, the World Cup, or you only ever see the Olympic gold or the championship. And what makes a career so interesting is that journey. What makes you interesting is that journey.
Everybody asks, what's your most proudest moment? I mean, I can pull out some, but it's like my 17-year journey. 34 years of playing soccer, 17 professional years. If you pull something out of it, like it doesn't complete my journey.
That's right.
And I also think too, I mean, some of the contracts, which, hey, I'm all for it. It's like great that, the pay is becoming so much better. But it's almost like when you haven't even achieved anything and then you're getting, signed on by, all these endorsement deals, it just doesn't breed a hard work characteristic to get to the top. Like I didn't have an endorsement. I had one endorsement deal for the first 10 years I played.
What was it?
Nike.
Okay.
And then
a good one, though.
2015 happens. Yeah. 2015 happens. Score a hat trick, and
everyone's like, can I sponsor you? Can I sponsor you?
My life forever changed.
Yeah. Yep.
So there's just kind of that, I don't know, just that blue collar mentality to fight.
Completely. I also think it's so vapid. Like that's the one thing, the sponsorship becomes like NIL. I think this is going to be an issue in NIL.
Agreed.
It's about the image and the influence, less about the athletics and the ability. And I'm like, it's not going to work.
It's like a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Like it's so great. Like social media is a great tool to do so many great things, but then it's also kind of hurting a part of.
Yeah, that's right.
If used in a not so great way. I'm all old school.
Same. All right, Rachel, do we have any other questions that we have to know?
Wait, I do have one more question then.
Oh, okay.
So with the U.S. women's national team, everyone's kind of like the you and Megan's and Alex Morgan's are kind of phasing out. Now it's the young people, and a lot of people don't know them as much, but everyone's so excited about your group. What is your advice or tips to them to try to get people as excited as they were for you guys? Because
that's a great
I'm
question.
obsessed with you guys, but I just don't feel like I know them as much yet. But it's because they're all new.
Yeah, I think it's a different. We're kind of in this generational shift with the national team. So obviously the players like myself and some of my other former teammates that have been around for several decades.
Absolutely.
They're not out of the mix, but they're not being called in currently.
Mia Hamm is a generation before you, or would you consider her your generation?
So those were the players that I looked up to playing.
Okay, so she's ahead of you.
Yeah. Yes. So now it's all of these new players, younger players. There's still, a couple of old, veteran players that are still in the mix. But it's different. It's different for, fans going to watch. But I think nothing breeds more fans than winning.
Yeah, 100%.
So they're going to have to...
They have to win.
They're gonna have to
the
win.
other thing is, what a credit to you all that you had such long careers. Most all of you had very long careers.
Some longer than others, yeah.
Yeah.
It's... To be in that pressure cooker for so long, and the grind, the mental grind, it's not... It's fun, but it's not fun.
Yeah,
it's for love of the game.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that you have to navigate through. The game, the playing itself is the easy bit.
Yeah.
It's everything else that comes with
chore.
it.
Yeah.
And I just feel so much of a release being done. I love the pressure cooker. Yeah. Don't get me wrong.
100%, you were great at it.
But I'm this...
Don't need it forever.
I feel great.
Yeah.
I'm wake up, stress-free.
Yeah, it's awesome. Don't have to be somewhere today.
It's just, I'm wow.
The to-do list has free creative items on it.
I think my husband, Brian's enjoying just a little bit more of a relaxed feel.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's all good.
Good for you. That's awesome. You earned it. That's so cool. Can I ask you 5 questions?
Yeah.
And I'll let you go. Okay, first is, what is the first thing you do every morning?
Have coffee.
Okay, same. How do you take your coffee?
I do cappuccino with oat milk.
Okay, that you make yourself?
Made at home.
Okay,
Yeah.
Always?
For the most part.
How many coffees a day type of person are you?
One. Unless I'm running on fumes, then I'll need a couple.
Do you still train and work out like you used to?
No. It's so different.
I know, it sucks.
I'm like, I never thought that being a retired professional athlete, I'm like, no, I'm going to work out. I'm going to train all the time. Train as in strength train. No, if I don't get around to working out, I'm like, okay.
Do you feel like, how's your body?
My body's great. My knee, I had knee surgery in 2020. Feels great. It finally recovered from my 6-day ski trip, which was pretty gruesome on the knee.
Did you fall and tear something?
No, I had a scope, so I almost have like a pothole underneath my kneecap, so I'm missing some cartilage. Yeah,
okay.
So in that skiing position, you're kind of in that bent position.
That's tough. Okay.
But no, I'll do like a 30-minute run, 40-minute run, maybe do some strength work.
Okay.
I feel good.
Casual.
But I run to burn calories.
Yeah.
And I run for just therapeutic.
In mental health. I love it. Okay. What's something you do every day without fail besides coffee?
Oh, every day without fail. Write a to-do list.
Okay, I love a to-do list.
Love crossing off.
Isn't it the best? Yeah. Like I got a fat checklist going on over there. I love a checklist, and I love adding to it and taking it away. I
love rewriting it too.
Same.
Like,
do you keep it all in one place? Mine is very spread out everywhere.
Kind of, yeah, in a little notebook.
In a little notebook, and it's just running, or do you do a new one every week?
If it gets to be like too much and a lot of crossing out, like I'll like freshen it up and do a new one.
Okay. Sometimes the freshening up is also like deeply satisfying.
But then I also have an issue where I'm like, okay, I don't need to do 20 things in one day. Mm-hmm. Like just
like settle down at
a
like
little
16.
Bit. Yeah.
But sometimes I can't resist the 20. Okay. What's something that surprised you this week?
This week.
Or you could say lately.
I think I assumed my retirement life would be like chill.
Okay.
But I don't think that's in my nature.
You're never
I'm just I'm like a go-getter.
Yeah.
And just kind of always busy and wanting to just become better.
You thought you would like sit around and read and like go to lunch.
I haven't had a moment to read.
Yeah, I bet you haven't. You're never gonna have a moment to read.
It's like
you're never gonna have a moment to read.
It's crazy.
That would be so off-brand for you.
I know it would.
I mean,
but I like being home,
Definitely, it's so nice. But you're probably like puttering around everywhere.
There's a lot of things. Yeah.
That's tough. Okay. What gives you hope right now?
Just trying to be the best version of myself and instilling that in others to be the best version of themselves as well. If I can help inspire like a couple people that I come in contact with, I'm just all about treating anyone and everyone with respect, whether you're at the lowest totem pole or you're like high up executive. I just think if you treat people with respect and you go about your life in the right way, you tend to be repaid eventually.
I love that. Okay. Last one is, what's a business or brand that you find exciting right now?
Probably would have to say Tech Ball.
What's Tech Ball?
You've never heard of it?
No.
You guys need a table in here.
What's a Tech Ball?
Tech Ball is this curved table.
Okay.
So you can play 2v2, 1v1. It's almost like a ping pong type
table. Is this the new...
This is with your feet.
Oh, it's with your feet?
Yeah. So 2020, in 2020, I got this table during the pandemic. So I had just come back from my knee surgery and I started playing this. I saw like David Beckham, Ronaldinho, all the big name men's players playing. And so I just became the first female ambassador USA for Tech Ball.
Okay.
But it's on the rise and it's like taking off. They have tournaments. They have, they're trying to go for LA 28. The end of the table are curved. So when the ball comes off, there's a certain amount, like you have 3 touches between the two of you. And you can't use the same body part.
Oh, that's interesting. All right, I love that.
You got to check it out. So most of the players start off serving with their head. So you serve with your head. They cannot return the ball directly. They have to like pop it up and use the touches. And you can't use the same body part in a row.
In a row.
So like, let's say if someone was serving to me, I hit it up with my foot. I couldn't then hit it up again with my foot.
Either foot?
No. So I would hit it up with my foot to my partner, they would maybe chest it, and then I like would have it.
Wow. Oh, I love this.
It's a lot of fun.
All right, I'm going to get one. That was great. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. All right, so that's it for today. Subscribe to Things You've Missed. If you go to barstool.links/TYM, you can sign up for Things You Missed. You can get our merch in the merch store. You can subscribe to this and watch us on YouTube. We'll be back on Tuesday with a Work Like a Girl drop. And you can get our next episode next Thursday, wherever you want to listen or watch.